Yo, let them talk. Let them talk. Just let them talk. Just let them talk. Just let them talk. Right? You really just got to let people talk a lot of the times. And you have to act unfazed by it, right? Now, this topic goes along with yesterday's topic. And yesterday's topic was if you need people to support you, you are most likely not going to make it, right? So, obviously, that statement right there is a pretty big statement. If you need people to support you, you are most likely not going to make it. So, make sure to check out yesterday's video after this one when you get a chance. But let's go ahead with the topic, right? Let them talk. So I'm going to share with you guys a few stories. I'm going to share a few examples, and I'm going to also share some mental models and mental ways that really make it effective and why you should really, really, really let people talk. Because a lot of times we want to say something back, and sometimes it is important to say something back and make a stance for who you are, for what you're going for what you're going after, right? Because what you'll realize and what you might have already realized, if you're somebody who's chasing exceptionalism, right? Like you want to be exceptional at everything you do, um, mentally, financially, and physically, you're gonna get a lot of criticism, right? Like for me, I've always gotten criticism for a lot of things, right? Because one, I didn't go to college, or I went for 2 weeks and I dropped it. And then a few other things as well. Like I've gotten tons and tons of criticism, right? And then obviously when I started on social media, it just became even more, right? And to this day, it's more and more and more. It keeps piling on, right? Especially when you become more attractive, right? When you're in better shape, when you dress differently or you dress better, people will notice. And when people notice, what are they going to try to do? Well, a lot of times they will either acknowledge it, they will not acknowledge it, or they're going to start to, say things under their breath, thinking you don't hear it. And now, obviously, not everybody's the same. At least for me, I notice everything, right? I hear things even though I act like I don't hear it, right? I understand when someone's making a joke, but the joke isn't to really make a joke. It's their way of hating under their breath, right? Now, some people may not consider it hating. That's fine. But one thing I learned from I forget who said it, but they're like anyone who would even laugh and make a joke and they're throwing shade at the same time, you should probably drop them. Me personally, I'm not gonna tell you I dropped you or anything like that. I'll just keep it low, right? But I'm gonna share with you guys a few examples and a few stories, right? Like same with social media. Like a lot of people considered me quote unquote famous when I had 60,000 followers on TikTok, and I blew up in like 3 months. I got 50,000, and then I ended up going to almost 80,000 followers, and then almost a million likes. Obviously now, I messed up my TikTok. I deleted a lot of content, so I got shadow banned and I lost a lot of likes. But I personally don't consider anyone famous really unless you have, obviously it depends on the platform, but on TikTok, I would say at least 50 million on TikTok would make you quote unquote famous. But even then, it depends on what you're doing, right? Like on YouTube, 100,000 subscribers or a million would probably make you famous. And then on Instagram, I think at least 5, 10, 15 million makes you quote unquote famous. But obviously, if you have 100 million, you're really famous, right? Like 100 million on Instagram, you are really famous. At least when you are considering Instagram, because a lot of people they seem to think, oh yeah, this person has a million followers. Like yeah, you have a million followers, but they could be bots. What did you do that's really something that gave you that following, right? But to kind of go back on the, or not to go back, but to really really show you guys some of the examples of let them talk, right? Now, example number one, before I get into it, gotta acknowledge the outfit, right? So kept it simple today. I say simple, but it's not really simple. It's simple for me, right? Navy blue, um, double-breasted suit, so you can see it's like that, right? And it has the 4 buttons. Some of them have six, some of them have one. So it really depends on what style you prefer. You could wear this with black pants. You could wear this with white pants. You could wear this with tan pants. You could wear this with gray pants. You could wear this with dark gray pants. Um, you could even wear this with the light purple that you see on here, right? So light purple pocket square. Obviously, this is a custom tie knot that I did, and I'm starting to do my own custom like knots with some of these. And then we've got the tie. I don't really like the knot the way I did this, but this is a really old tie, so it started to like. I tried retying it, but it didn't really do too much. It still looked a little bit scrunchy. And then we've got the silver and it's kind of like studded tie clip. And then we got the crispy white shirt. You could also wear this outfit with a black shirt. And then with the watch, we've got the blue face watch, black frame, and then or dark metal, a metalish dark metal gray frame, and then we got the brown leather. Now, of course, outfit is amazing, right? But let's continue with the topic. So let them talk. Example: imagine a scenario, right, where you just told people about your goals, or you just told people about your dreams, or even you dressed nice, right? This happened to me recently at an event, right? Like, people say things, and I know you're framing it as a joke, but I know it's not a joke, at least to me. But I'll laugh with you, right? Because that's just my personality. It's like, oh yeah, you always have to dress up, right? Like, you always have to try to impress somebody, right? And I'm just like, of course, right? Because for me, even this, even with women, right? Like, some of you guys might take notes on this. Whenever they try to, let's say, diss you or anything like that, you always want to amplify whatever they say, right? Obviously, you're gonna laugh. They're probably gonna laugh, or in their mind they're like, damn, I probably shouldn't have said that, right? So when I hear like, oh yeah, bro, you're always trying to, impress somebody, and I'm like, bro, of course, you always got to dress to impress, right? And you got to really start to brush things off, right? You really need to learn to brush things off, because I cannot tell you the amount of hate comments I got, especially on TikTok, and then I get them on YouTube, and on YouTube they're just more in depth. Like, people will type an entire essay for you, specifically on YouTube. I've gotten essays on TikTok, I've gotten essays on Instagram, but YouTube, I would say a YouTube audience is way more intelligent. And the reason I say that is because someone who's willing to sit down and watch a long piece of video, they're more likely to retain the information compared to people who only want to scroll on TikTok or scroll on Instagram or scroll on Snapchat Spotlight, whatever, right? So, when they type a long essay, it's like a wordy essay that someone intelligent wrote. So someone intelligent took their time out of their day to write a long essay for me, 3-page essay. And, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read all of it, and then I'm going to respond. Right. And when I respond, I'm not like, now, me back then, right, when I was first getting a lot of hate comments, I would have just gone back and forth like some type of dogfight with you. Right. But now I wouldn't say more mature, but now it's more like, you know what? I have a better understanding, because I probably wouldn't want to trade lives with the person that's dropping the shade, right? A lot of times when you look at some of these people's profiles, you don't want to look like them, right? And you don't want to live the type of life that they're probably living, which is why they're throwing the shade, right? And so the example I gave you is with how you dress. So for me, I wouldn't say I recently picked up the way I dress. Right? For me, it was always like I knew I wanted to dress like this, right? Like the James Bond, like the T'Challa, like Bruce Wayne, like who else? Leonardo, Wolf of Wall Street, how he looked in the movie. Who else? Even Jason Statham sometimes when he dresses, and I can't remember some of these movies, but I used to watch a lot of these movies where that archetype, right? Like, Kevin Samuels gave these 3 archetypes, and you have 3 types of, and I know I'm segueing into something else, but trust me, it goes back into all of this. You have 3 archetypes for the type of masculine man that you want to be, right? Like, the first one is you're rugged, right? But your style isn't there. You're in the gym a lot, and like you might wear a suit here and there, but really that style just doesn't work on you. Then you have it's like a slick, right? You're slick, you're smart, you're charismatic. You really pay attention to details, and you're still mysterious, right? All 3 archetypes are mysterious, but the slick, he's more like this, right? He dresses more like this, and he's always, his fashion is on point, and it's not really fashion, it's just his dressing style. It's how he likes to dress, right? And then the third one is he calls him the lover boy, right? Like, the lover boy is a mix between the slick and the mix between the rugged, which is, I could say, me sometimes, even though I don't like to wear ripped up clothes. But the lover boy, think of someone like Brad Pitt, right? Like, the way you dress, it's really to attire to women, right? And even the way you do your hair, even the way, like, that's just your archetype, right? So for me, I fall a little bit in that one, but just to kind of give you guys a categorization with some of this stuff, because a lot of people think the style for me is something recent. For me, let me just say, I couldn't afford it when I was younger, right? But now I know, now obviously, you got money, so you can dress and you can look how you want to look. But I get a lot of those, like, yeah, bro, like, yeah, you think you're somebody now, or who do you think you are, or let me see, what's another example? Um, why do you walk like a model, or you think you're a model when you walk? um like I get these all the time, and to me it's just like, of course I'm gonna laugh with you, but I understand what you're trying to say. But even, and a lot of times it's jealousy, a lot of times it's envy, right? And I don't mind it, right? Like, it doesn't make me mad. I'm just like, yeah, dude, of course I'm gonna walk like a model, right? Like, and it's not that I'm walking like a model, but when you hit the gym, your physique starts to be on point, right? And if you do back, you're most likely going to start to stand tall. You're going to stand more confidently. You're going to walk more confidently, right? And obviously, there's a lot of gym guys that are not confident at all. So me, I know I'm a confident person. Some people will say cocky. Some people will say arrogant, right? Which is fine. I'm perfectly fine being called that. But for me, the reason I'm able to be so confident, walk so confident, be so confident in the direction that I'm going into with everything I do, is because I have evidence that for the most part I am who I say I am, and I am who I say I'm going to be, right? Like, a lot of times before you are who you say you are, you need to do things for yourself, not for other people, but for yourself, to give you the proof that you need to keep pushing for something bigger, right? So the reason that I'm okay, and I don't want to say okay, the reason that I am confident in how I walk, how I talk, how I look, and the reason when people say things, it just brushes off, is because I know you're only saying it because part of you, maybe you wish you could dress the way I dress. Part of you probably wish you could walk the way I walk. Part of you probably wishes you could stand on business on what you want the way I stand on business on what I want, right? Where for me, I am stubborn with my goals. Now, do I shift how I go after them? Of course, because you have to learn in order to improve. You have to learn in order to get to the next step, in order to get to the next level, right? So for me, I've always taken massive risks, right? Whether it's on my life or if it's financially, I've taken those risks, and they don't always pay off. But when they do pay off, it gives me evidence that, okay, I need to trust myself. And a lot of times when I don't trust myself, when I don't trust the decision that I'm making, and I do it anyway, it's a lesson for me where I was like, damn, I probably should have trusted myself. Or if I'm allowing other people's opinions to shift the direction of my goals, or shift the direction of my targets, or shift the direction of what I'm doing, and it doesn't work, what does that tell me? I should have trusted myself. I should have trusted myself. I should have trusted my opinion. I should have gone with what I originally wanted to do. This happened to me quite a few times in business. It's happened to me in my content. Even with me deleting a lot of my old TikTok is because I chose to listen to somebody else. I'm not blaming the person, because I'm the one who chose to listen to them. I chose to listen to them. They said, yo, dude, if you want to look differently, you probably want to delete some of your content. And I was like, damn, you're probably right. And before I deleted it, I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't, but I did it anyway. And then, well, guess what? What ended up happening? Here I am back to speaking a lot on mindset, and I'm not holding back on the mindset. And a lot of people, even comparisons to Andrew Tate, right? The way I sit, like, I've always done the hand thing that he does. I've done it since elementary school, like the whole crisscross applesauce. They would tell us to sit. That's how we sit. I used to always do that with my hand, right? Because I forget what it was, but I just always like sitting like this and just having that posture. When Tate blew up, and then someone saw me doing it, they're like, oh, bro, why are you copying Andrew Tate? I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, to me, I'm just like, I've always done these things. But, people will compare you because now there's something else to compare you to. Or when I started dressing like this on social media, they're like, oh, why are you trying to look like Andrew Tate? I'm like, bro, I've always dressed like this, right? Like, I may not have gone to school like that, but I've always dressed like that. So it's you gotta pick up on them. And a lot of times I let people talk with that specific scenario. When they say things like that, I either just smile at you like, yeah, of course, right? Or I'll give you a response where I'm amplifying what you say. Of course I walk like a model. Of course, I think I own the room, right? Because that's a part of everything. When you walk like you own the room, you get a certain respect, not from everybody, but some of the people that do understand. They want to approach you because, damn, okay, this is somebody I want to talk to. This is somebody I want to get closer with. I see it when I see somebody else enter. When I see how someone enters the room, that tells me a little bit that, okay, this person is probably important, or it's probably going to be important for me to go speak to them or go talk to them or go connect with them, right? And of course, women pay attention to that stuff. They may not pay attention to it consciously, but subconsciously they see it, right? Even though I'm not really on the topic of women, but yeah, so that's one example, or a, an example of examples where people will say things. Now let's go to your goals. So this was on how you look, how you walk, how you talk, etc. And yeah, even with talking, oh, why do you talk like that? Why do you use so many different types of words? For me, that's just me, right? So now let's go to your goals, right? A lot of you probably told some people about your goals. A lot of you probably told people about what you want to do. Maybe you want to hit the gym. Maybe you want to look a certain way. Maybe you want to buy a certain car, right? One of my boys, he recently got a 2024 Mustang, right? And everyone's like, oh, why are you getting that car? Dude, it's just going to be a depreciating asset, this and that. And I'm over here like, bro, like, F those people. Don't listen to them. Like, so many people is like, yeah, don't buy a depreciating asset. Okay, I get that part. But a lot of the people that are telling you that, they can't even afford to buy the car that you just bought, right? Same thing. A lot of people on social media, they want to talk about, oh, dude, that's just a rental car to some people, right? They see somebody in a Lamborghini, oh, bro, that's probably a rental, right? Or they see somebody in a really nice crib, oh, dude, that's probably an Airbnb. But I'm over here like, okay, this person can afford to rent this car. You can't afford to rent the car, yet you're throwing shade. Think about that. You can't afford to rent the car. You can't afford to stay in that Airbnb, yet you're throwing shade because they're able to do it, right? So even with the whole depreciating asset, right? He bought the car. He knows for the next 5 years, maybe more, he's still going to have the car. So he's not doing it for a quote unquote financial decision. It's he wanted the car, he got the car, right? A lot of times when you want something, you get the thing you want because it reaffirms that you are someone who does and gets what they want. Very few people do what they want. They do what other people tell them to do, right? They're always seeking opinions of others because for some reason, yeah, yo, bro, like I was thinking about getting this car. What do you think? Now, of course, for me, someone like me, when I'm getting an expensive car, I'm not going to talk to other people who don't have an expensive car. I'm going to talk to people who have expensive cars who you're probably, yeah, you probably don't want to get that model, right? You probably don't want to get this version. Dude, I've heard some things about this version. Okay, I want to have that conversation. I don't want to have the conversation of, dude, well, if you put this money into this and this and this, it's going to blah, blah, blah. That's fine. That's fine. We're all here trying to accelerate our income. We're trying to multiply our income. The way you want to multiply your income is not the way I want to multiply my income, right? Everybody's after passive income, passive income, passive income. Passive income is only passive after a certain amount of time. You still have to put in a lot of work before it can become quote unquote passive income, right? There's really no such thing as passive income, right? Until you've quote unquote retired and then you just have money coming in, right? But what you need to be after is active income. It's kind of like if you want to buy a nice expensive watch, right? And they're like, yeah, bro, you want to buy this one because, if you want to resell it. Yeah, if I want to buy the watch, I want to buy the watch. I'm not buying it thinking I'm going to resell it in the future. Same thing with the car. I'm not buying the car thinking I'm going to resell the car in the future. If I'm going to buy an expensive car, I know it's at least 10% to 20% of my income. So, of course, I'm going to get it, right? So that's the other thing. It's just having that financial literacy of being able to afford the car, right? You're not just going to blow your whole income on buying an expensive car. But if you can afford the car where it's like 10 to 20% of your income, great, get the car. Or the monthly payments are like 5 to 10% of your income, great, get the car, get the watch, get the house, whatever it is, get the apartment, right? Even with apartments, they're like, yeah, bro, if you're paying this much for an apartment, you might as well just get a house. It's like, well, I don't want a house. Like, you have to understand that people want to tell you how to spend your money, but they don't even have the money to spend. Right? Yeah, bro, if you're dropping that kind of money on an apartment, just get a house. Okay, great. You want to get a house with that money, but it's not your money. When you earn the money, get a house. Now, is it smart advice? It's probably smart advice. But if I'm someone who's not like when you get a house, you gotta really look at why you're getting the house. Now, if you're doing real estate, great, do real estate. Me personally, I don't want to do real estate until I have at least 100,000 stacked, right? Stacked, stationed away. Now I know I have some money to take risks with, right? Now, of course, you want to get a loan, and I don't really want to dive into it, but I have people in my network for when I'm ready to get into real estate. I know they're the people I'm going to go to, right? My client slash partner now. This dude is a powerhouse in the real estate space. Since he was 19, he had 17 properties. So I have people in my network to have these conversations with. So I know who I'm going to go to when I'm ready to do those things. And of course, you're never ready. So I'm probably going to approach him about those things before I even have that 100,000 stacked, right? Stashed away. So with a lot of these things, and on that same topic of letting them talk, right? You buy a car, right? He bought the 2024 Mustang blue. It's like a light baby blue. I really like the color on the car. I'm not a Mustang fan, but I do like the car. And I do like the color. Like, I wouldn't own one, but I like the one that he has. Somebody else would have probably been like, damn, if I was you, I'd probably get it in red. Like, but you're not the one buying the car, right? Oh, if I was you, I'd probably get it in black. But you're not the one buying the car. So think about this. People always have an opinion to share, and it's a lot of times completely irrelevant. They just want to say something. And a lot of times, you can just let it go. You can be like me, where you amplify it. Or if you're someone who's really like, it's kind of like when Tate said, "Where's your Bugatti?" Right? Like, bro, you're not buying the Bugatti. This guy's buying the Bugatti. So of course he's gonna tell you, like, man, if I was buying that Bugatti, I'd buy it in black. But you can't afford to buy the Bugatti. So why do you feel like you need to give an opinion? Now, obviously, I'm just going on a rant at this point, but it's to give you different examples of when people will talk. And a lot of times you might not even be aware that they're talking shit, but a lot of times they are. Even if it's under a joke, right? I forget who said this, but people will throw shade as a joke. They'll tell you a joke to get you to laugh, but they're just throwing shade, right? Like, you're in shape, you look good, you go to the gym. Look at this guy thinking he's Superman, right? They'll probably say something like that. Or look at this guy thinking he's so strong now. Oh, you can't, you always take off your shirt, right? And it's, I used to be the person who used to be like, man, why do these guys always have to take off their shirts? But now that I have a physique I like, now I'm not going to say I never had a decent physique. I've had it because I've been working out since I was like 13, like doing push-ups. And then when I started wrestling, I used to, we used to do weight room a lot. So I've been working out for a while. But I was, with fitness, there's things you like, things you don't like, right? Sometimes you want your chest to be bigger. Sometimes you want your arms to be bigger. Sometimes you want, your shoulders and your traps to be bigger, right? So you're always going to shift your opinion on how you look. But I'm now at a point where, damn, like, okay, I really like the way I look. And I'm going to keep going. And for me, it's purely aesthetics. Of course, I want to be strong, but I don't want to be huge, right? Like, I don't want to not be able to walk through a door, right? So I'm focused on aesthetics. So I do a lot of high intensity work, and I do a lot of heavy lifting because, one, it builds the muscle, it builds me, and the cardio and the high intensity stuff, it keeps me lean so that I'm in shape. Like, and what I'm realizing lately is some of the suits that I wear, they changed my frame, right? This one, it makes me look smaller than I am, right? But then I'll wear a different one and I look a little bit bigger, right? So even with the gym, you start to look good. Now I don't like, I'm not going to say I don't like, but I do take off my shirt more than I used to, right? I do go in front of the mirror a lot, right? Like, Friday night, I was at my boy's housewarming party, and he had a really nice mirror there. And then I wasn't too short of the outfit that I wore. I like the outfit. I like what I wore. But when I got there and I saw myself in front of the mirror, I was like, damn, like, sometimes it takes a different mirror for you to be like, yo, I look really, really good. And then he was like, yo, bro, that fit is like hard. Like, he really liked it. I was like, oh, word, really? He's like, yeah, dude, the combination with the jeans, the dress shoes, and then, I was wearing like a dark gray jacket, black dress shirt, and then I had a silver-ish pocket square. And he was like, dude, the fit is just, it works. And I was like, damn, thank you, bro. And then it's things like that where you're like, yo, like, I wasn't too sure of the outfit. I liked it, but I wasn't too sure about it. But then when I saw myself in that mirror, I was like, damn, this shit looks fire. And then when he said that, I was like, okay, yeah, okay. And now the way he's looking at it, now I'm like, oh, I didn't look at it like that. For me, I was just looking at it of what I was wearing. But for him, it was how everything went well together, you know? And somebody else came to the party and they were like, you always have to dress to impress. Yeah, well, the occasion was to look have a business casual type of look, right? So for me, that is business casual. Is the black dress shirt, the black jeans. But he said it smiling, and he was like, "Man, you always have to dress like you have to impress somebody." What did I say? I was like, "Of course, bro, duh," you know. And then everybody else around laughed, right? Because I amplified it. I could have been like, "Man, be quiet." I could have been that way about it, but I wasn't. And then what happens? Everyone else in the room who heard it, they started to laugh. They're like, "Yo, nah, that was funny," right? So you gotta understand how to take things that people say, and then sometimes you let it go. Sometimes you amplify it. Same thing with your goals. They want to tell you what to do. They want to tell you what to do with your money, right? And it's not that I'm taking inspiration from Tate and all these guys. Of course, part of me is, because whenever I see a guy who's doing better than me, making more money than me, and they're most likely working harder than me. So that's how I look. Like, okay, this guy has this car because he's working harder than me. He can afford to buy these things because he's working harder than me, right? Obviously, there's education that he has that I probably don't have. So I do seek that education. But he said something about a watch. He bought a watch and it was like, it had studs on it, like, diamonds and stuff like that. And people were like, "Oh, bro, why would you buy that watch? You just killed the depreciation or something like that." And he was like, "I'm not broke. Why am I gonna resell a watch?" Right? And here's another perspective. I forget who said this, but he was like, the reason I own so many expensive cars is so that if I ever go broke, I know that I could just sell one of those cars and I'll have my money in 6 months. The way you view money, the way you view the world needs to shift. It needs to shift. Because a lot of times when you're coming from the ground, right? Like I could say I'm coming from the ground. I'm not coming from absolutely the ground. Like my dad had to work hard in order to bring us to this country, right? So him bringing us to this country gives me the opportunity that I probably wouldn't have had if I was still living in Haiti, right? So I'm not gonna say I'm starting from the absolute ground, but I lived in Haiti for 7 years. I saw the lifestyle. I saw how some people were in really, really poor conditions, but I thought I was in a good condition in Haiti. Then when I came to the U.S., I was like, oh, okay. So there's way more to life. And then when I started traveling by myself, like I think I took a flight to Florida. That was like my first solo flight, and I didn't stay in a nice place, but where I was and the event, it was like a super expensive hotel or expensive like spot, and because it was like they rented out or rented, loan, whatever word you want to use, that whole space for themselves for the event. And I was like, oh wow, this is clean. Like it I've seen expensive stuff before. I was in a really, really expensive Airbnb like in August, and that event was in December. So in August, I went to a mansion for another event, and I was like, damn, like I could own this one day. And when I pulled up to that event back in August, I had the worst car there. Like everybody, I saw this lady pull up in a really, really nice red Mercedes. And then I saw somebody else. I forget what car it was, but it was a really dark metal gray car. And then the Airbnb, it was like a nice mansion, and I still have pictures and videos. And I was like, wow, like there's this side of life. Like you hear about it, you see it in movies, you see it in TVs, but when you experience it, it changes your perspective on money. Even before that event, I met the lady that was hosting that event. I met her in June. So I went to that event in August. In June, this is 2 months prior, she invited me to her daughter's first birthday. So this was my first time shaking hands with a millionaire, and 8-figure at that, right? So before I shook her hand, I thought the world, like I thought millionaires were completely different people. I thought they were absolutely special people. Shook her hand, I was like, oh, she's just a regular person. What, like the moment I shook her hand, oh, she's just a regular person. But she worked hard and she was really educated on the path that she was going on, right? Like her dad worked at IBM, so he was able to give her that business knowledge and that advice. And when I was leaving the event, I saw somebody in a black Aventador. And I was like, wow. Like, that was my first time seeing a Lamborghini in person. It was black. It was like a Batmobile, right? I took pictures, but the phone I had, I don't know what happened to those pictures. So that's something I regret to this day, not having pictures of me in front of that Lamborghini. Because that was like the moment where I was like, yo, I need one. I need one. And then on the drive home, I was with my boy, saw Ferraris. We like, it was one Ferrari and one Lamborghini, I think. I have the video, so I'll probably go back and look. But it was like an Italian striped version of it, and I was just like, wow, like I really need one. And then August, I go to the event, I see the mansion, I see the nice cars again. Like, wow, okay. And then December, again, I go to the event, and now I'm seeing different types of people, different outfits. Like, I'm talking about in that room alone, there were billionaires that we didn't even know were there. So it also showed me a different side. Like, some of these people, they have really expensive clothes, right? But it's black. It's a black suit. It's a black jacket. But it's really expensive. You don't even know what material it's made out of. But you wouldn't, it's not a shiny thing. So you hear a lot of people that are like, yeah, rich people, wealthy people, they don't buy expensive stuff. They do, right? They do, but they're not gonna do it in a way where it's in your face. There was a concept, and I know I'm deviating a little bit. There was a concept where I came up with this concept, but you might have heard it from somewhere else. There's 4 to 5 types of really wealthy people, right? So you have the first type where you would assume they're broke or they're not rich, right? They'll live in a decent house, they'll drive a Honda or something, or even a not worse, but even like a cheaper car. And but they have a lot of money in the bank. So that's one, right? So they look like they're poor or they look like they're not rich, right? And then you have the second type, which is, let's say, the more rapper type, where they're really loud with their money. They have a lot of Bugattis. I say Bugatti, but they're really loud with their money, right? And a lot of times they're flashy. They're not flashy because they can afford it, but they're just choosing to be flashy more than they need to be. So they'll buy really big designer clothes. They buy all the latest designer. Like, that's their personality type, right? So those are 2 types so far. So the first type, right? They have a lot of money in the bank, but you would assume they're broke, right? Because of the car they drive and the type of house that they live in. They may have millions in the bank, but they're probably spending like maybe $5,000 a month where they live. The second type, you have that rapper type of personality where they're extremely flashy. They're always buying designer. That's their personality type. Then you have the third type, which is they're a little bit in the middle. They're not they're not flashy, but they'll have a nice car, right? Not nice as in like $100,000 car, but they'll have a nice $60,000 car, $60,000 to $100,000 car. They'll have a pretty decent sized home, probably like 5 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms, maybe even 7, right? Pretty decent, really looking. So they have some money. You don't know how much, but they have some money, right? And then, but they're not too in your face with it. Then you have the fourth type. They're in your face with it, but they're not telling you about it. So you'll see them pull up in a Rolls Royce. You'll see them pull up in a Lamborghini, but it will be black, right? And then you have the last type, where this one is more recent that I thought about it, where they have all the nice stuff, but it's not loud. So they're wearing a base, like you see this jacket I'm wearing. For them, they'll probably buy a $3,000 suit just like this one, but it will look just like mine. Why? Because to them, the fact that they know it's $3,000 is why they get it, even if it looks completely normal. They'll buy a $3,000 suit that looks just like mine, but the material is why it's different. And only somebody else who's buys stuff like that would notice. It's the same thing with wines, right? It's the same thing with the types of shoes they wear. It's really expensive, but you wouldn't know it. So that whole fallacy of, wealthy people don't flash, yeah, they're not the type to flash. There are wealthy people who flash. So that whole concept that I don't know how it got into so many people's heads that, wealthy people don't buy nice things. Wealthy people don't flash their money. They don't flash it to you, but they flash it to other people who are wealthy, who understand. Why do you think a billionaire is going to buy a $1 billion yacht? You think it's not $1 billion yacht, but a half a $1 billion yacht? You think it's because he needs it? No, it's because he wants to show the other guys that can also buy a yacht that he got a better yacht than them. Why do you think he flies around in a private jet all the time? Well, for one, he probably has a lot of international meetings. Okay, that's one reason. But he doesn't need to buy his own jet. He could always use the ones that are there. But he buys it to let the other guys know that I could buy a jet. And then he'll probably buy the most expensive version, because you can't buy the most expensive version. You could buy the basic jet. Trust me when I tell you, and I'm not saying I've completely experienced it, but I've seen it. I hear how some of these guys talk about the stuff that they have. It's not the same way where, yeah, rich people don't, like, a lot of you are paying attention to the rappers. A lot of you are paying attention to the guys that are trying to sell you a make money course and things like that, right? A lot of them, they do a lot of flash. They have to do a lot of flash. But those guys, the way they talk about money, the way they flex on each other is the ways you probably would never assume, right? Simply because you're not in their situation. So you need to really, really shift your mind around how you currently view money. And I know this is a discussion that, I kind of segue into, but it's the same thing with letting people talk. Someone tells you don't buy a depreciating asset. Okay, why exactly are they telling you that? Are they in a position where they could buy the same thing and they have more money than you? Great. For me, I take advice from a lot of people. I'm not going to say I only take advice from people that are more successful than me. No, I take advice from people who lived longer than me, right? Like this old guy, I've talked about it on the channel before, but this old guy that I used to do a lot of work for, I always listen to him still. To this day, he'll call me like, yo, bro. Or he doesn't say yo, bro, but he'll call me and be like, yo, I got something I need help with. Can you come over and help me fix this thing, or blah, 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 whatever it is, right? Like recently, I built a whole table for him. But throughout that time, he's sharing stories and I'm listening to the stories. Why? Why do I need to listen to him even though he's not ultra successful? Because he used to be a top salesman until he got screwed over, right? So he was successful at one point. He had a lot of money at one point, but then he lost it. And he's still living in a nice house. Like, I'm pretty sure his house is at least 2, 3, 400,000, right? Especially with the area that it's in. So he's still living in a decent place. But that lesson he was able to share with me, the story he was able to share with me, and that's for me to translate into what type of wisdom I want it to be, right? So me understanding how he got screwed over from being a top salesman, making a lot of money, lets me know that, okay, I need to pay attention. I need to really, really pay attention to the types of contracts that I do. I need to really, really pay attention to the types of people that I work with. Because a lot of times people just care about their own self-interest, which is normal. We're humans. So you got to pay attention to make sure that you don't get screwed over. Not because you don't trust them, but because you can trust humans to be humans. And humans will make mistakes. A lot of times people are only self-centered and only worried about themselves and their family, which is fine. So you just got to do the same and look out for you, look out for your business, look out for your company, look out for your contracts, etc. Right? So this goes to the same topic of letting people talk, right? So I think this is a good way to start to wrap up this video, is you really got to let people talk. And how you choose to accept it is up to you, right? Even when you're driving, like I was driving home, everybody's in my ear talking. What do? I tune them out. Why? Because I'm someone who doesn't like a lot of noise when I'm driving, right? Like, the only noise I want to hear is if I'm having a conversation with somebody or I have music on. And if I have music on, I'll lower the volume so that I can still hear outside world. If there's police coming, if there's a car coming that's, I need to just get out of the way of, or if I see an accident so I can avoid it, right? Like if I see, like, when I'll say I'm a pretty good driver because, I drive stick shift. When you get to a certain level of driving, and I haven't been driving that long, I've been driving since I was 16, I'm 22, right? But you get to a point where you can just see things that are going to happen, so you can avoid it. And when you drive a stick shift, you have way more control of the car than somebody who drives automatic, right? That's just a natural fact. Like, if you can drive stick shift and you can drive good, you have way more control of your car, and you have your reflexes are just better than someone who drives automatic. I'm saying that, I don't know if it's a scientific fact, but for me, I know for a fact that I'm just a better driver because I drive stick shift, right? So You're aware of things more. You're more aware of things because you have to shift. You have to control the car. Duh, right? But you have to let people talk because a lot of times people just like hearing themselves speak. So they're gonna talk and they just want to share an opinion that is irrelevant, irrelevant, right? So that's that's food for thought for a lot of you guys that are after exceptional. You want to be exceptional. You want to be absolutely exceptional mentally, physically, financially. You just want to get to the top. You want to be a winner amongst winners, right? That's a lot of the reasons why I make this type of content. That's the direction that I really want to push into. And, because I know I'm on my way there. And so as I'm on my way there, I'm documenting and I'm sharing stories, I'm sharing processes, I'm sharing things like that I'm currently learning, that I'm currently implementing in my own life, but also to make sure that you guys can start to implement these things for yourselves as well, right? So, with that being said, I hope you guys found value in this video. I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure you hit that sub.